Okay, so we're back on the 240Z project. As you can see, I've got the noses off like in the previous video, but now I've gone ahead and removed the engine and transmission. I also have the doors off of it. I've got the deck lid off of the back, and I've got the fuel cell out. I'm pretty much down to like a shell at this point, but all the suspension is still on it. The reason all the suspension is still on it, because I talked to my client, and he's agreed to go ahead and put this car on the rotisserie so that we can really get the bottom of it cleaned up and get all the nooks and crannies and really do a good job on the car. So what I needed was to leave the suspension on so I'd have a rolling chassis. I could roll it into the bay next door, get it on the lift, and then I can remove all the stuff underneath it and get it set up on the rotisserie. So we're going to get to work on that now. I'm going to throw some tires on it, and we're going to work on moving it next door. In the meantime, I'll take the small camera, I'll bring it around, and I'll show you what it kind of looks like now. Okay. So here's our under hood area here. You can see I've got most of the components off, but we've got, you know, the suspension still on here, and I've got all these lines, fuel lines and brake lines. All of that is going to have to come off. I'm going to end up putting the tires back on so we can get this moved. Here's our inside. We're going to want to take this dash out, of course, and all these other little knick-knacky doodads, the wire and harness and such. But we'll work on that later. You can see the suspension is still on in the back. We need that to move it. I've got parts everywhere. I've got tires. I've got, you know, custom wheels. I got these doors that are off. The fenders are off. The deck lid's off. I mean, it's getting there. It's getting there. I mean, we're to the point where pretty soon we'll be down to nothing. So let's get at it. Okay, so we got our tires back on the Z car here. We're going to get it on the ground. We're going to roll it over into the other bay, get it set up on the lift, get the rotisserie out, and start working on getting it on the rotisserie. Okay, so we got our car moved over. We're on the two-post lift over here in the other bay. I got all my wheels off. Now I'm going to start disassembling all the suspension. Busted the bolts loose on the strut rods. I'm going to take my sway bar off, go along and disassemble these front and rear suspension, but I'm going to do it as much as I can as a component piece, so I don't want to completely disassemble them now, because then I'll have pieces all over the place. Remove it as an assembly that I can bring. Okay, so now we got our front suspension all undone, and we're just going to now I got the rear suspension all disconnected. I'm going to raise the lift up and jimmy it off of the mounts, and our car should go up and our suspension should stay on. So there we have it, our entire rear suspension assembly dropped off of the car in one shot. Now work on getting this out of the way and getting the rotisserie in here, getting that set up, and we'll take everything else off of the car when it's on the rotisserie. Okay, so we've got our rotisserie here. We have this end here that has the rotating crank that turns it. The other end we have the pivot point. We get a couple of pieces that go down the middle and connect it together. What we have to do next is work on getting it fastened to the car. We'll usually end up drilling some holes in the frame rails to get a good secure fit in the front and in the rear. So we'll be working on that next. And once we get it mounted on the rotisserie, we'll be able to turn it 360 degrees and move it around. So I'll move it back into the other bay where it's isolated, and we can work on it without worrying about getting the rest of the shop all nasty with everything that's going on with this car. I'm here working on mounting the 240Z to the rotisserie, and every time you do one of these, you end up making some type of a jig. And what I have is I have some face plates mounted to the frame where this slides up inside, and we'll go like that right there, and then of course they slide over my rotisserie like this to hold it here. Now I've got both of these done. This is all welded up. The front's a lot easier. The front, basically I can use my extensions, and I just got to drill some holes. I'll show you that right now. Okay, so on this particular setup, you can see we have a nice flat box here. This is the frame rail in the front, and then we have our piece here from our rotisserie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the car down, and I'm going to slide this right into this groove here, and I'm going to make a couple of holes right through the frame rail and bolt this right on there. And then we'll have the front all set. The back will just need to be assembled, and we'll be just about ready to roll. Okay, so as you can see, we have our project all mounted on here. These are the bolts I was talking to you about here. And then I've got the setup in the back. Everything's all set. It's bolted. There's a center line that goes down the bottom, or the middle of it connects the two towers together. And I'll show you how this works. So see, now you just turn this crank, and now you can rotate this car to do whatever you want to do to it. So here is the piece that I made and welded it here, and welded it into the stanchion, and this is a piece that comes with the rotisserie, but I just adapted it so I could do that. So now you can kind of see I'm coming off of there and then going up inside. If you look over here in the back, I have plenty of room in between the rotisserie itself and this rear body panel. This is really important if you need to get tools in here or whatever, and to have access to all of that. So we have plenty of room in there. Like when we get to the point where we want to put a trunk lid or something on here, we got plenty of room for that to happen. And like you see, I mean, I can get right in here, all these areas that have been, you know, welded. I can sandblast all this stuff inside of here and get it really, really looking good. Now you can see like all of these lines and everything along here that would have been, I mean, just a real bear to get at. Now, I mean, if I pull back, I'm right here. I can work on my emergency brake and all that. So I can get all this stuff out of the way and out of here to the point where I can do all my work. I'm going to get ready and I'm going to sandblast this entire thing. And this is a little bit better view of the jigs that I made to attach this to the rotisserie. Now it's going to be a matter of just removing all of this stuff that's on the bottom of it. And on the other side, I mean, I still have the dashboard in this car and some other things. But believe it or not, I can turn this and I can work underneath my dash. So I can just rotate this like you see here. This is pretty crazy. Now, if I want to work on the underside of my dash, how much easier does it get than that? All right, so now I'm going to get to work on this. We'll get all these lines and everything off of here and get this thing ready to be blasted. So I'll catch up with you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, and subscribe to Troy Kane's Vtwins To V8s. Thank you very much.